Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Texan Senior Residential Care Homes, ATD Painting, and Performance Food Group. Texan Senior Residential Care Homes, senior care at its best with a family atmosphere. Obviously, if all seniors had the option, they would be living at home, but sometimes that isn't always possible. Well, guess what? That is where Texan Senior Residential Care Homes comes into the picture. Texan specializes in making its facilities as close to a home living experience as possible. I'm talking full living room, kitchen, dining room, cable TV, music, games, fireplace, you name it. Texan Senior Residential Care Homes has it. They've even got home cooked meals by experts. It's an extra throw-in. Not only that, there are no move-in fees, no visitation restrictions, so your loved ones are free to stop by and visit anytime they please. Texan Senior Residential Care Homes are located at I-635 and Marsh Lane in Dallas, right near Carrollton. For more info, you can call 469-400-7650. Texan Senior Residential Care Homes. And now, let's podcast. Welcome to another edition of the Star Local Media Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor at Star Local Media, and I am being joined by Taylor Ragland, who does sports for the Plano Star-Courier, Allen American, and Lake City Sun, as well as Justin Thomas, who does sports for our Denton County papers. But specifically, you'll more be representing the Carrollton Leader today. So, gentlemen, we are here to talk Week 1.
Louisville Leader.
That's right, and Louisville Leader. We're here to talk Week 1 high school football. The action gets rolling actually later tonight with the first night of what projects to be a pretty long grind through another year on the high school football beat. So in anticipation of that first week, we're going to talk about a few marquee matchups that we have within our markets. We're going to focus this first part on our game of the week. So on Monday, as will be the case throughout the entire season, on Monday we picked 5 in-market games for the readers to vote on, make their selection for what they feel should be the game of the week. And sure enough, some strong turnout all around. We did have one game though that seemed to get an early lead on the rest of the pack and really just kind of held serve from there. So congratulations to Plano and Hebron. Tonight's 7 p.m. clash from Clark Stadium between the Wildcats and the Hawks has been named our game of the week, and as such, we will have some lively discussion on that game. A game that I'll be at, a game that should certainly be a fun game between two of the more perennially strong programs within the Metroplex. So let's get right to it. Justin, you're the Hebron guy. You've been around that program for a while. So just talk a bit about at first glance when you look at this matchup, what kind of jumps out at you as far as what made this game such a marquee attraction?
I guess probably the history that these teams have kind of built up recently. Did you know this is the 11th year in a row?
Yes, somehow, some way they found each other. They found their way onto each other's district schedule.
Four of those were district games, but the other 7, I believe, were not, including a couple years when Hebron was in a 16 district, 16 districts, and then they had 5 district games, so they had to pick up a couple non-districts. But yeah, 11th year in a row, and by my math, Plato's taken 6 of them, and Hebron has 4. So the Hawks looking to pull within 1 here, and of course, 3rd year in a row they've met on the opening game of the season with Hebron or Plano taking both of those. I was out there a couple years ago when the Wildcats got them pretty good, 38-7.
Very surprising outcome.
You were out there last year for a much better game, but still went Plano's way last year, I guess.
Kind of what has me anxious was obviously, yes, you mentioned that game last year, and that game still being 1 year later relatively fresh in my mind, and just what a back and forth tale of two halves type game it was. And just if we get anything like that tonight, then obviously that's a blast. That's totally worthy of being game of the week. For fans who maybe need a quick refresher on just what has kind of led these two teams to tonight's game. Last year you have things have changed obviously on both sides, but some pretty important elements and pretty central characters are still in the mix for both teams, including the big thing for Hebron early on was the connection between quarterback Clayton Toon, who has since graduated, and Trajan Bridges, their star wide receiver, who is not graduated. He's back for his senior year. Back. He had his way with Plano last year.
Did he have 3 touchdowns?
He had all 3 touchdowns that they scored. He had 8 catches for 140 yards. I'd heard some buzz about him, that offseason prior, but man, that was just such an eye-opener as far as wow, this kid is just tearing through Plano's secondary. And they tried throwing, he caught one of those touchdowns by beating double coverage. The touchdown that pulled them within 1 point late in the 4th quarter was against triple coverage. They just had, it got to the point where if you're Plano's defensive coordinator, Ryan Cox, you're just throwing your hands up and okay, what the, you just got to tip your hat to a performance like that. But by that same accord, Hebron had a lot of success early on in that game, and then Plano controlled the second half with what you've come to expect out of Plano. Their run game really kind of, took over. They had, I was checking back through my game story. Plano only had 23 rushing yards in the first half of that game, and then they finished with 206.
Yeah.
So I mean, they took it to Hebron up front. They really wore down the Hawks in the trenches. Kind of surprising considering that Hebron's defensive line was a strength heading into the season.
Definitely.
They really hurt them with a lot of, no pun intended, wildcat runs. Direct snaps to their to their two running backs, Kyron Cumby and Cody Christ. I believe they averaged, looking back through my story, 5.5 yards per carry on those types of runs. So I mean, Plano comes at you with a myriad of different different run formations and whatnot, and it just seemed to really, just the cumulative effect really seemed to take its toll on Hebron. And then you had you had Hebron dominate the first half, Plano dominate the second half. These two teams, there was not a whole lot of separation between them on that night. This came down to, of all things, a botched snap and hold on a game-tying extra point. So Plano ends up escaping with a 27-26 win. Sets a little fun, little blueprint for what to expect out of this game. Taylor, at first glance, what kind of caught your eye about this matchup?
I think the thing that I think about when I look at Plano early in the season is that they play a brand of football that I don't want to say is easier to learn, but it's easier to install and get going early on in the season sometimes when you're a team centered on let's run the football, let's play smash mouth, let's let's see if they can stop it, let's do run the Wildcat and Kyron Cumby's back. Those are things that are already in place and things that don't necessarily take a couple weeks of non-district play to get going sometimes, like a new quarterback might, or the passing game in general. So I don't know if that's to thank for their performance against Hebron the last couple years. Like you said, last year was extremely close, but sometimes in these first games, despite maybe a talent disparity, and I think Hebron probably has a higher ceiling, just as far as the postseason goes and what they might be capable of. When you match up with a team like Plano early in the season, they're going to be good at what they do. They're going to be good at running the football. They're going to be fundamentally sound. Plano's always fundamentally sound, and sometimes that can kind of outweigh talent and impressive offensive systems or things like that early in the season, because it's just they are very comfortable in their identity, and that could play another role this year in helping them handle Hebron like they have as of late.
Because that's the thing, like, make no mistake about it, the on-paper favorite heading into those last two matchups was Hebron. They were an overwhelming pick by whatever media outlet you checked that was making picks. But
I think I have them this year. They probably still are the favorite, I would say.
Oh, they are. They are. On paper, they are still.
Into this year.
But Plano's been a stumbling block for them, and you mentioned the continuity that they have, in the backfield with Kyron Cumby, with Cody Christ. How is Hebron going to handle that? Both teams are going to be breaking in new quarterbacks, which is I'm kind of anxious to see kind of how that wrinkle works. More so on the Hebron side, because I think that's a bit of a more
be counted on a little more, maybe?
A more central role to their identity, versus the run game is going to be Plano's identity. Although Coach McCullough said he thinks they might be able to balance out a little bit more, but time will tell. But when you're taking over for a 3-year starter who's off playing D1 football, like Carson Harris is tonight for Clayton Toon. I mean, I'm anxious to see just kind of what, especially with it being the first week, because whatever Hebron's identity is tonight is not necessarily what it's going to be, 2 months from now.
Right.
So how much do they ask out of Carson in his first ever varsity start? And what kind of trickle-down effect does that have? It'll
be interesting to see kind of how much they put on his shoulders, how much they're willing to open up the playbook for him and stuff. But being in the system, being an upperclassman that's been in the system, I feel like he should have a pretty good grasp of the playbook at this point, especially what they did in spring in 7-on-7. I feel like he'll have it. I don't feel like they're going to have to hold back too much. And honestly, another aspect I'm looking at is to see what Jalen Lott is able to do.
Yes, I had that down as well.
He was very, very explosive last year, but now he's going to be kind of the bell cow back with Jaden Taylor moving on. So I'm kind of interested to see kind of the distribution in the backfield, how many carries he's able to handle if he's able to stay fresh throughout the game, because he's just a junior. He's never been kind of asked to carry this type of load, at least at the high school level. So.
Because that was a part of Hebron's offense last season against Plano that never really got off the ground. They I believe Jayton Taylor, who was their starter last season, has since graduated. He had like a 45-yard run on maybe like the second or third play from scrimmage, and that was pretty much it. Plano stuffed everything else that Hebron tried. Running the ball. You mentioned Lott. I mean, he only had 5 carries for 23 yards, so you really didn't even get to see the full the extent to which you might see him later on tonight. So I was very anxious to see, because he went on to win, like, what was was it offensive
He was
newcomer of the year?
Offensive newcomer of the year, yeah. And it just kind of goes hand in hand with that. But the other real thing to monitor for Hebron is their offensive line. They graduated 4 all-district linemen from last year. So Blake Barber's back, but a new group around him. You know, Coach Brazel says he's pleased with how they've kind of gelled throughout camp and in spring and stuff. But different when you get out there under the lights on Friday. So I'm interested to see how the line and the running game comes along, almost as much as Harris.
And they'll have a tall order as well on the other end of that line of scrimmage, because they one thing that contributed to Plano being able to make that comeback last year was the job that they did, disrupting Clayton Toon's rhythm with their pass rush. Specifically, Keon Hurst, who was at the time last year was making his first ever start on varsity last season and wound up being one of the breakout players in all of District 6A. Well, he's back, on the edge there on the defensive line, and that's Plano. Hebron had its hands full trying to slow him down, and that's when you look at a player like Bridges and just not wanting to let him at all, approximate what he was able to do to Plano last year. One thing that's going to be pretty important in Plano's pursuit, at least, is being able to get pressure on on Harris and just disrupt whatever timing those two are able to establish. And Keon Hurst going to be very, very pivotal in in that factor. What do you see as kind of Hebron's path to victory in this game?
I think, real quick on Bridges, though, I was just kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are. Like, do you think last year he was on a team, they had 4 really good receivers, 3 of them were all district, 3 of those guys are gone and he's back. So do you think that's would lead to kind of an increase in targets and an increase in production for him, or do you think things are going to be tougher without those other guys around him?
I think they can work both ways, because on the one hand, like, he's, with Carson Harris, how reliable it is to target one of the top receivers in the in the state, and you do have that sense of, especially in your first ever start for a game like tonight, there might be more sense to kind of go with what you can count on, what you can rely on, and it would stand to reason that granted, I don't know what else Hebron has at receiver, but
I don't think a whole lot of people know other than the people in the room there. They're all new outside of Bridges.
So with Bridges, like I just mentioned, like 2 of his touchdowns last year Plano tried to throw the kitchen sink to try to slow him down, and it just did not matter.
I think that's what it comes down to, for sure. I think that the targets will go up. Just like Theo Weiss at Allen, I think Theo Weiss is going to be on an individual level as far as targets and kind of being the guy that maybe he didn't have to be, despite how talented he is, and Bridges could be the same way. But that can also lead to, like you said, more coverage and obviously more emphasis. But at the same time, guys that are this good, every once in a while they're just
sometimes it just doesn't matter.
Like sometimes it's just they're gonna beat the defense and it's not gonna matter. You could put all four guys out there and it would be fine. So
because there's one like when we rewatched the his last touchdown, the one where he beat triple coverage. It was like, do you guys ever remember the game that you play as kids 500?
Yeah, where you just throw the ball up and everybody.
And you had 3 Wildcats all right there, just staring at the ball, ready to come down to the pick in the end zone, and then Bridges just swoops in over all of them and grabs it. He put on a special performance last year against Plano, and sometimes again when you're a player of that talent level, like Taylor said, it just doesn't matter what you throw at them. So
going back to what you said, though, is what I think what the blueprint for Hebron. I think defensively, it's. Can't imagine I'm saying this after like Verone McKinley graduates and Mario Montez and all the other good secondary players, but I still think Hebron's going to have a very good secondary with Darius Snow, Ryan Ollison, and Diego Johnson. Coach Brazel's pretty high on them, so I look for Hebron to kind of stack the box, try to make Plano beat them through the air. It worked for 1 half last year. Let's see if they can do it for 4 quarters this season.
Plano has to be, and I mentioned this a week ago on the podcast, and I'm probably going to say it quite a bit, where it's going to become a broken record. They just need to be efficient passing the ball. Plano passed the ball just 9 times against Hebron last year, which is not out of character for a run-based team. That was kind of that was the norm. But they completed 6 of those passes. So if you're completing 2/3 of your passes, then you'll take that every night. Yeah. So for Cole Winnett, his very first start going up against a program with the kind of pedigree of Hebron.
Yeah.
And they've got so much, they have players who started on varsity at receiver, but nobody they don't really have a proven top option. Caleb McAway was their top receiver last year, and he accounted for a ton of their production. He has since graduated. Their next up on the depth chart was, Jaden Chambers, Isaiah Calhoun, both of whom caught only 7 balls last year. So Plano's passing game is going to be very much a work in progress. Harris. Anxious to see what that what they have to offer in that capacity tonight. But they need to be efficient, above all else. Obviously, the typical benchmarks: control the line of scrimmage, win time of possession. They got to do whatever they can to make Carson Harris uncomfortable. Like I just mentioned with Keon Hurst and the pass rush, they've got to be getting to him with some semblance of regularity, so he's not able to sit back all day, because if he's got all day to work in there, guess who's going to get open? Bridges. So, and then obviously, you need Kyron Cumby, Cody Chris just to do their thing. They were able to average together, 6.5 yards per carry in that last year's meeting. They're able to approximate that. You got to like
tough to lose.
Chances.
And then, of course, you got to execute on special teams, as you saw last year. And Hebron has a very good kicker in Grant Paulette, so he's a little more experienced this year. So I think they should be pretty sound there. So I'm anticipating a pretty tight, pretty competitive ball game.
Who do we pick for this one?
I had Hebron. I mean, in the picket line this week, I had Hebron. I think the talent ceiling is higher, and I think they're probably due for one at this point.
I'll take the Hawks. I'll say, how about 28-20?
28-20. Yeah, so I've picked this game incorrectly the last 2 years, which is probably not the best way to set up my pick for this.
I believe I did too then.
But so with it's the first week of the season, so above all else, like whatever you see tonight, whatever you see tomorrow night, whatever games you're at, fans, don't overreact. Understand that it's week one, and that what you see.
All you have to do is look to the non-district last year. I remember it was chaos. Just this team beats this team. This team beats this team. What do you make of this? Just
you mentioned
get to district and see what happens.
I mean, you saw the Plano Hebron game in 2016 where Plano looked like a band of world beaters as they rained Hebron off their own home field. Plano didn't even make the playoffs that year, and Hebron did. So I mean, it's just you got to take these games early on with a bit of a grain of salt. Leave the baseless conjecture to us as far as any kind of big picture stuff. So that all being said, I whether it's a case of fool me once, fool me twice, but I'm hopefully going to learn from my mistakes, and I'm picking the Wildcats to win this one. I feel like, I don't know what to expect out of Carson Harris, but, I feel like there's maybe a bit more certainty right now and a bit more continuity with Plano's identity versus Hebron's. And again, Carson Harris might go off and be a district MVP candidate for all I know. But, especially with this first week with so much unknown, I just kind of got to go with what I know. And I feel like there's a bit more certainty right now with what Plano has. So, give me the Wildcats. I think for my spread in our preview column that we did, Taylor, I picked them to win by 3.
Yeah.
So it's going to be...
I mean, for the picket line, we didn't have to do margins or anything, but I would have been similar. I mean, it's hard to take one of these teams, especially with last year and what we think they have coming back. It's hard to take one of these teams by even, a touchdown at this point. So, I mean, it's the slimmest of margins for sure.
I'm in the minority on this, so I'm looking up at the picket line right now, and Hebron got a nod 4-2 overall. Just myself and Devin Hassan going out on that limb and picking the Wildcats. Justin Taylor, y'all two, plus Brian Murphy, Kendrick Johnson siding with the Hawks. And that is a nice little preview of our game of the week. We'll see if it lives up to that billing tonight. Once again, Plano versus Hebron, 7 o'clock at Clark Stadium in Plano. But obviously, we've said our share on this game. What does one of the star players of Plano Senior think about this game? So yesterday, myself, Kendrick Johnson, we had a chance to chat with Plano star running back Kyron Cumby as he talks about Hebron plus Plano's upcoming season in general, and we will get to see what he had to say after a word from this sponsor. Let's take a quick break to talk about ATD painting. Whether it's painting, staining, carpentry, residential, commercial, interior, exterior, if you need it painted, ATD Painting has got you covered. At ATD Painting, their goal is to provide a home improvement experience that is a great value, trouble-free, and enjoyable. And painting is really just kind of scratching the surface as to what these appointments entail. For ATD Painting's interior projects, things like painting, wall repair, ceiling repair, they'll make sure that your floors and furniture are protected and that everything is all cleaned up afterwards. For exterior projects, not only will they do the painting, but they will hand scrape loose paint, reattach loose boards, recalc windows or doors, plus much more. Not only that, if you visit their website right now, atdpainting.com, you can find a coupon for $200 off a complete exterior purchase. Once again, ATD Painting. They've got 4 locations in the Metroplex, including in Plano and Louisville. For more information, call 972-694-8888 or visit atdpainting.com. That is ATD Painting. Check it out to see just how affordable professional painting can be. And now, let's get back to the podcast.
Kendrick Johnson coming to you once again. This time we're at Plano Senior High for the game of the week. Plano plays Hebron in week 1. I'm with Plano star Kyron Cumby.
Yes,
Thanks for joining me, man. How's it feel to be starting your senior year with such a high-profile game?
I mean, it's big. You know, we need this considering we're in a good district, so we need a game right off the bat to test this.
How much I talk about last year's game? It was like a nip and tuck and fair. And if you look at like the whole state of Texas, that's like one of the top 10 games in the state, and it happened in week 1. Do y'all think it's going to be that type of game with all the explosion y'all got and all the explosion they have?
Of course, you know, when we play Hebron, it's always a good game. They have a nice team over there. We feel like we have a nice team, so it should be a battle.
As you know, I cover the McKinney schools, but I'm definitely an admirer of your work. Are they going to get you the ball more this year? Because you look at the stats, it'd be like you have like 10 carries for like 15 yards a carry. It's like, oh, this man going to get 20 carries? Or do y'all just going to have y'all system and do y'all going some wrinkles that we haven't seen out of playing the last couple years?
I mean, I feel like this year we're more talented as far as like receiving core, running back core. We got 3 good running backs and a good receiving core. So of course we're going to spread the ball around and not be, you know, one-dimensional and focus on one player.
How much did going to the playoffs last year give y'all that momentum on this year? I know it's 2 separate teams, but do y'all have that momentum? Like a lot of y'all heard about the Plano tradition. I saw the sign when you walk in, make your own tradition. So what does that mean to you, and how do y'all plan on making our tradition in 2018?
You know, we have a lot of returning starters, so we feel like playing Euless Trinity and getting the playoff vibe should be good for us because we've been in that environment before. But of course, we want to, you know, turn around Plano and, you know, make a deep run in the playoffs.
What you seen on tape that Hebron possesses, there's going to be some challenges because they got talent on both sides of the ball. Got the 5-star receiver and they got the 4-star linebacker. So it's like both sides of the ball, they got y'all covered. What you seeing on tape that's going to make them a difficult challenge?
Hebron has a really good secondary, and, you know, we're going to have to get the running game going to open up the passing game.
How big a deal is that to be balanced so it's not leaning on you and Cody Chris to be bell cows?
You know, I'm playing a lot of slot this year, so, you know, we want to spread the ball on the outside, and we feel like we have the quarterback that can do it, and, you know, we're going to use these 3 games to balance our offense and prepare for district.
And with that tough district that y'all got, how good is the fact that y'all get a good look with that quality opponent that y'all gonna see in district? A lot of teams don't get that. It's like they'll still be 3-0, and then you got Allen first district. It has the fact that y'all getting a playoff caliber team right out the chute.
You know, our coaches, you know, they like to schedule, you know, games that are going to prepare us. You know, we got Allen in week 1, so, you know, Rowlett and Hebron and the El Paso team, they're going to really test us and test where we're going to be this year.
And where's y'all confidence level at? Like, because I got so many people returning. So do y'all think y'all like getting in the playoffs, getting a little sample of that, got y'all extra motivated to make that run and protect the paw?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we understand that we're not the, you know, big dogs around, but, you know, we have a lot of good players. And, you know, we just have to approach every day. You know, hard work is going to be talent. So when we play teams like Allen and Jesuit and those teams, you know, we just got to grind, and what we do in practice is going to show on the field.
Before I let you go, give me 2 personal goals and 2 team goals you got. 2 for yourself and 2 for the team in 2018.
2 personal goals, I would say, you know, just do what's best for the team, you know, carry a load. If they want me to carry a load, then I'll do that. But if they want me to take the back seat and, you know, we want to spread the ball around, if that's best for the team, I'll do that too. You know, team goals, you know, of course we want to make a run in the playoffs and go as far as possible, but we need to mold together as a team and, you know, play as a team, and we can go far.
Thanks for your time, Kyron.
No problem.
Kyron Cumby, star running back for Plano Senior High. I challenge you to go see this man play on a Friday. You might see something you'll be talking about 5 years from now. He's that good. Back to y'all.
Yes, sir.
Thank you to Kyron Cumby for taking a chance to chat with Kendrick for our Student Athlete Spotlight, highlighting our game of the week, Plano versus Hebron. So we just devoted about 15 minutes to discussing that game. Obviously, that's not the only game happening within our neck of the woods for this opening week of high school football. Got some other big ones on the docket, so let's talk about a few of them. We're just going to quick hit, a few games before we close up shop here. Another big game that's happening tonight, actually, a big game from a historic standpoint. The first ever game at the new McKinney ISD Stadium, the $70 million palace, as Kendrick Johnson refers to it. It opens with a renewal of a rivalry within the city, McKinney versus McKinney North. First time these two teams have met since 2015, so not a massive hiatus, but you do have 5A versus 6A, so nice to reunite those two for for the non-district slate. North, however, riding a 4-game winning streak against McKinney. Any initial thoughts on this game from y'all?
I think that despite the 5A, 6A disparity, and that's always interesting just to see. We've had this conversation about a couple other games this week. How does a really talented 5A match up with just 6A athleticism, even if it's not the best 6A team or isn't projected to be? But for me, I think McKinney has just lost too much to compete with North. North has continuity, North has talent, and McKinney is just. I think it's fair to call it a rebuilding year. I don't know how bad they'll be or how many games they'll win. I think that they'll be okay and they'll have a decent year, but I think they just lost too much to really hang with teams that are bringing back as much as North is.
We talked about just that element of the unknown, and it doesn't get more unknown than a team that lost all 11 offensive starters from last season. So you're going into this game kind of blindfolded on just what to expect out of McKinney's offense. You do know that Corder Dunn was able to spell Matt Gaddick well enough to have a quality season as a backup running back, but time will tell how he's able to handle the lead back workload, plus with a brand new offensive line in front of him.
That's what I was kind of curious if this game's going to feature an awesome running back. One of these two teams usually seems to have a pretty good horseback.
North
there.
Graduated a district MVP in Lamar Lucas, and that program reloads running back as good as anybody in the area. Between that and just Cam Constantine's entering his 3rd year as their starting quarterback. I just got to go with kind of the more proven, kind of what we know for McKinney North in this one. So as far as our picks go, I gather you're on the north side.
Dogs. Give me the dogs.
Yeah, give me McKinney North as
dogs.
well. And we weren't alone. So McKinney North was a clean sweep in the picket line for this one. So 6-0 nod for the Bulldogs over the rival Lions. Justin, the game that you're going to be at, Sachse versus Coppell. Talk about this one.
Looking forward to this one. Two teams that coming off district titles last year, and a game a lot of people thought might have been a regional championship game last year, but both teams ended up losing in a heartbreaking fashion in the 3rd round, so that never came to fruition. But they'll get after it this year, and I'm looking forward to this one. Obviously, we kind of, as we alluded to a little bit in the Hebron Plano game, you got to kind of look at these teams replacing their stellar quarterbacks, Jalen Maiden and Brady McBride.
Couple big name quarterbacks.
Yeah, definitely. So looking forward to that. I guess we're doing predictions. I picked the Cowboys. I think this should be a good game, but I kind of like what Coppell has. Assuming that they get good production and consistency out of quarterback Juice Aurelia or Taj Greger, whoever ends up there primarily, I really like what this Coppell team has outside of that position. If it comes along, I think this is going to be a really good team, and I think they're going to get off to a good start here. Coppell is probably, like, if you're going to pick the perfect kind of opponent for Sachse to open up with after a year that they had last year, their best season in program history, a season where they were ranked, top 10 in the state for the majority of the, of the year, to they're opening up against a program like Coppell is them carrying themselves like, okay, we've taken that next step as a program. Because I was thinking back, themselves a big boy kind of, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Coppell's absolutely. Coppell's usually. Coppell throws down with Allen on a yearly basis. That's just shows.
Was that from a Sachse?
Oh, Sachse, yeah. Like with Sachse, I was thinking back, this is probably their biggest in terms of pedigree, their biggest non-district opponent since the 2014 Plano West team, and that was Soso Jamabo's senior year, a team that won 9 games, went a couple rounds deep in the playoffs. As far as just a quality of opponent, this has a chance to really be, if Sachse can pull it off, that has a chance to be one of their biggest regular season wins in quite some time. It will be just the perfect springboard off of what they were able to accomplish last year. That being said, I'm taking Coppell with I don't know. I feel like when Sachse was pressed against, as great as their season was last year, you did notice that when they were pressed with higher caliber competition, you look at their toughest games on the schedule, from Rowlett to Rockwall to Hendrickson, and they made an incredible comeback and almost be able to pull off a miracle against Hendrickson. But they did seem to stumble a little bit when pressed against that higher echelon of competition, and I do think that that
was a Rowlett team that Coppell dominated a couple weeks later in the playoffs too.
Coppell's I don't know, there's just a bit more, certainty, steeped in tradition, consistency, just year in, year out, as far as handling these big, these high-profile types of games. I think Sachse is,
and playing at home.
Yeah, and Sachse could get there in due time, and they certainly took a big step last year. But right now, for this one, week 1, got to go with the Cowboys.
Yep. I went the same way. I took Coppell. I think that when you're breaking in quarterbacks, both teams are in pretty good situations as far as the skill positions and the players surrounding them. But yeah, I'm just going to go with, the tradition and kind of the, what have you done for me lately? As good a year as Sachse had, Coppell has been, is up there with, some of the best programs in the state. I think Blake Jackson kind of has the ability to be one of those guys that we've talked about where, you can step up and take a huge role outside and kind of make plays no matter what's going on. He's pretty good. So this was one of the ones that I think was closest for me this week, and probably the game I was second most excited about to Plano Hebron, but I'll go with Coppell.
I'll throw a bold prediction in there. Coppell will score a special teams touchdown this week.
Ooh,
that will
okay.
Any reason why
put that on camera? All right.
Yeah, it's on camera.
So, for the sake of the picket line, Coppell came in with a 4-2 nod in this matchup against Sachse. The three of us obviously picking the Cowboys, as is Kendrick Johnson, and then Devin Hassan, Brian Murphy rolling with the Mustangs.
Oh, the Sachse reporter and the Sachse alum picking the Mustangs, huh?
The game that I will be at tomorrow night, the first half of the Tom Landry Classic out at Eagle Stadium in Allen, as is usually the case at the start of the year. That begins with those Allen Eagles, the defending Class 6A Division I state champions, begin their year against Mesquite Horn. Should be a fun little game. I'm looking forward to this one. Horn is they're frisky enough to give Allen some fits, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's tough to go against Allen with all that they've done, over these last, I mentioned it, ad nauseum, that they've won 87 out of 89 games. They've not lost a regular season game since September of 2012. Yeah, 2012.
Yeah.
You were at that game against Coppell.
I was.
I'm anxious to see, I guess,
Debut of Kyler Murray.
That's right. The above all else, the wide receiver defensive back matchups in this game. Both teams are kind of in the same spot. They have a lot of talent on offense, and their secondaries were both hit hard by graduation. Allen replacing its entire secondary. Horn graduated 3 kids from the secondary that made all district. And on the other end, I saw Mesquite Horn just once during the summer, and that was in 7-on-7, and their speed at wide receiver was just insane. They've got some burners that are lining up out wide. And one thing I'm talking with Allen head coach Terry Gamble, at least fresh off their scrimmage against Hebron, that he really stressed. Didn't see the scrimmage, so I can't speak to it, but it sounded like a sore spot was tackling in space. He was really emphasized the need to pick that up, because against a team like Horn, that can obviously come back to bite you quite a bit. And
There's probably some similar athletic skill sets on the Hebron offense and Horn offensive sides as well. That's who they scrimmaged, by the way, Hebron.
With with Allen, then we already mentioned Theo Weiss and what he does, but this is a receiving core that quarterback Grant Tisdale said could be the best one that he's had during his time at Allen. A lot of depth. It's not just Weiss, but they've got Juwan Mason, Darian Sherfield, two sophomore twins, Bryson and Blaine Green, who both have multiple D1 offers. There's a lot of talent there out wide. So I'm anxious to see how Allen's passing game evolves with that kind of depth, how the running game looks. Obviously, we've mentioned that a bunch with how they're looking to replace what Brock Sturgis brought to the table. And then Horn, Jermaine Givens is exciting a quarterback as it gets in the state, and I'm anxious to see what kind of problems he can pose for Allen. I'm rolling with the Eagles. Even though Allen's been a little slow out of the gates in recent years. Their last 4. You think of the Allen standard where I mentioned 87 out of 89 of those 87 wins. I want to say the average margin of victory was somewhere in the neighborhood of 24 points. Their first game of the season, 3 of the past 4 years, they've only won by, I believe, 18 points or less. So teams have hung tight with them a little bit early on. Allen teams kind of pull away late as they will. But I'm going to go with the Eagles. Just it's Allen. They're undefeated at Eagle Stadium. Haven't lost a regular season game in almost 6 years. How do you go against that?
Yeah, for me, I kind of think along the same lines as you do about, it's not a hope, but there's always this little itch that, this is a great team. Jermaine Givens is a great quarterback. They got dynamic playmakers. Is this the team that's finally going to give Allen, a run for their money in the first game? Is this the team that's finally going to take Allen really to the ropes? Is this the team that's, going to be right there in the fourth quarter? And you think about that and try to justify it, and then Allen will out and win by 14, 21, 28. So it's hard to go against Allen until something gives, and so far nothing's given. Even in those games where they come out a little slow and things aren't going quite as efficiently as they would probably hope, they still end up winning, like you said, by 18 points or less. You're still winning by 18 points. That's what I mean.
That's the thing. Like I say that
for Allen, that's low.
Every team will take a 3-score victory anytime.
So
anytime. But
I went with Allen. with the hope that it'll be a good football game, because I think Horn is an extremely talented football team that will certainly at least make the first half intriguing. I think that's safe to say, but I don't think you can go against Allen yet.
Look, you evaluate Allen a little bit different from from other teams, and like I said, it's even though say what I will about the scores, but just from a quality of play standpoint, it was a team that definitely was still shaking off some rust.
Right.
And we'll see if that remains the case. For the sake of the picket line, it was a clean sweep.
Yeah, I took Allen as well, but I'm calling a major upset alert here. If anything, because of all my years doing this picket line, if I've had one bugaboo, it is Mesquite Horn. They always do me wrong. I always pick them incorrectly, and so I picked Allen, and I think Horn has what it takes to beat them. I couldn't pull the trigger on them, but I picked Allen, so that probably means Horn's going to win.
Yeah, probably does. Who knows? We shall see. And let's round this out with a look at a big game out in Mesquite. Mesquite Poteet, the Pirates, they open up their season 7 o'clock Friday from Memorial Stadium against perennial Class 5A powerhouse Denton Ryan. For this game, Devin Hassan, our Mesquite News sports editor, he is fairly high on this Poteet offense, at least in just the talent that they have coming back from quarterback Dalton Dale, Seth McGowan, the running back, Cam Lampkin at receiver. Pretty big things expected for this Pirates offense, and going up against you could not pick as far as just quality 5A opponents. It doesn't get much tougher than Denton Ryan. So I'm anxious to kind of see how that fares, if what kind of early returns you get out of that Poteet offense. Just from the Denton Ryan perspective, this is the Drew Sanders debut for the Raiders. Drew Sanders, a quarterback who's had a cup of coffee in our markets. He was he was in line to be one of the quarterbacks in competition for the starting role in Lake Dallas. Around a little over a year ago, he winds up transferring to Caldwell Heritage, where he plays out his junior year, and now he's at Denton Ryan, going to start for the Raiders this year. Obviously, lofty expectations coming with that standard, but think about this, Taylor. Like, Drew Sanders was in a time in contention for that starting quarterback spot. Can you imagine, though, in an alternative reality where we have no idea if Ryan Depperschmidt is going to play quarterback for the Falcons? And
no, I can't imagine.
Imagine how different that would look for them in hindsight. If you have, he would be their backup, potentially if Sanders had won out in that competition.
I've actually heard some rumors or some suggestions that Drew Sanders is going to play receiver for them and not even start at quarterback, and it's one of the coach's sons.
Oh, really?
And then his brother.
That's to what I just said then.
And then the coach's son is the starter, and then his brother is the backup, and Sanders is going to be playing wide receiver. I don't know if that's how it's exactly going to play out, but I did read some about that leading up to the year.
Okay.
So
interesting. So let's see. As far as picks for this game go, it's one of those cases where it's just you don't pick against Denton Ryan in the regular season until you're actually given reason to. I don't know what their record is for just consecutive regular season wins. That's a program that is always just in the thick of that 5A title discussion. So I don't know. It's again, I got to go with what this first week, especially with so much uncertainty and despite the continuity that Poteet has on offense. I picking the Raiders.
Yeah, if it is true that Sanders isn't going to start at quarterback, then they're very well equipped at quarterback.
Yeah.
They don't even need him.
They must have somebody else.
This Ryan team seems like a team that could win it all. I'm going to take Ryan.
Yeah. 44-3 last year over Poteet.
Oh no!
I think so.
The Pirates should a better showing for themselves.
So I think there might be a better showing in order, but like you guys said, just kind of a broken record. You can't go against Denton Ryan until you're given a really, really solid reason to want to make that choice, because they're a perennial threat to win the whole thing. So I went Denton Ryan.
For context's sake, Poteet is 0-4 all time against Denton Ryan, and all 4 of those games are decided by double digits. So 3 of us picked Ryan. The rest of the picket line agreed. There was a clean sweep for the Raiders, so we shall see if we gave Poteet a little bulletin board material, or who knows. But that's a look at at least some of the other marquee games that are on the docket for this week 1 of the high school football season. As far as live coverage goes, as I've said, I'll be out at Plano Hebron tonight, and then Allen Horn tomorrow night. Taylor, you're going to be at Kimbrough Stadium out in Murphy to cover Plano East against LD Bell. Justin, as we've already mentioned, you got Sachse and Coppell on your docket.
I'll be out Saturday too.
That's right. You got the second half of the Tom Landry Classic.
Lovejoy and Heritage Saturday at 7 at Eagle Stadium. I'll be there as well. So looking forward to seeing the Panthers and the Leopards, all the big cats this weekend for me.
And then Kendrick Johnson is going to be holding it down out in McKinney for their big opening weekend of the new stadium. He's got McKinney North tonight, McKinney Boyd and Rowlett tomorrow night. Devin Hassan will be holding it down at Mesquite for Poteet and Denton Ryan, and Brian Murphy will take in the very first varsity game for Frisco Memorial as they take on Salina. For all those games, we'll be live tweeting updates all throughout. You can follow us along on Twitter. What are your Twitter handles, by the way, gentlemen? Pass them along for the listeners.
J Thomas SCN, JTHOMAS SCN.
Mine is just at Taylor Ragland, just my name, no spaces. It's all good.
M Welch SLM is mine. Once the games go final, you can check out our game stories plus video highlights, rapid reaction podcasts, the whole nine. Writing, audio, video. It's the triple threat of high school football coverage.
It's here, boys.
You can check all that out at starlocalmedia.com. Plus, we'll be back on Monday with another edition of the podcast itself. In the meantime, Taylor, Justin, appreciate you for tagging along. Folks, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy whatever football y'all take in tonight or tomorrow night or Saturday for that matter. And yeah, we will talk to y'all later.
Shoot me a tweet if you want a podcast t-shirt.
That's right. We got plenty of those to give away.
Seriously.
Thanks for checking out this edition of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast, brought to you by Performance Food Group. Performance Food Group delivers more than 150,000 food and related products to customers all across the country. If you want to get in on that process, PFG just might have a spot for you. Their McKinney office is currently hiring. Job openings include Class A CDL drivers and warehouse order selectors, as well as many other entry and part-time positions. An ideal choice for college students or people just wanting to find new careers in general. For more information, you can visit their website at pfgc.com/careers for more job openings. If you prefer to contact them by phone, you can call at 214-491-3130 for more details. Once again, that is Performance Food Group, located in McKinney at 500 Metro Park Drive.